Countries have to avoid taking protectionist measures that hurt one another and are ultimately self-defeating. It's not polite to say so, but countries in difficult times do come under pressure and do things which they know are not the right thing to do collectively and which are, in fact, against their own longer-term interests. And they close markets, they take measures which discriminate against imports. They find ways to give their own companies a little leg up at the expense of others. This is understandable, but we have also to understand that these are not things which are going to help us to prosper, even if they may be a quick relief from an immediate political problem or economic problem. And we have to work together, not to protect our markets, but to take steps towards a vision of a free trade area of the Asia-Pacific. This is a vision. It will not happen for many years because there are many economic and political challenges which have to be overcome. But we can take steps towards this vision gradually, year by year. And one promising way to do this is to push ahead with the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or the TPP. You may not have heard of the TPP, but I think it's worth your while to take note of this little nucleus, this little seed, which we hope will in time grow to a significant tree and a pillar for free trade and cooperation in the Asia-Pacific. The TPP is a free trade agreement by a small but significant grouping. 4 countries: Brunei, Chile, New Zealand, and Singapore. It covers, in these 4 small countries, Chile is not so small, but the rest of us are. It covers developed and developing economies, and it covers both Asia as well as the Americas. And it's a high-quality agreement that maximizes the benefits for businesses, and that is designed so that other economies can join in and accede to the TPP, and over time this little seed can bloom and grow, and we will have a significant free trade agreement. It starts with a high standard template, and we can work to bring in other economies in stages, and that's what we are doing. The US, Australia, Peru, and Vietnam have expressed interest to join. We hope this will materialize as soon as possible. When it materializes, it will be a significant advance towards the ideal of a free trade area which encompasses the whole Asia-Pacific. We've set ourselves an ambitious agenda. We need all parties to work together to achieve these goals. Governments need to build consensus and political support for a global action plan. G20 meetings have seen governments cooperating in tackling the crisis, but the cooperation has to continue beyond the crisis. And following Pittsburgh, we hope we will be able to move discussions forward in this APEC meeting, next year in G20 meetings in Canada, and then in South Korea, and then to carry on further and into the following APEC meetings, next year in Japan, in Yokohama, and the year after that in the United States. The US hasn't decided where yet, but some participants are hoping we will have a very serious meeting in Hawaii. The international financial institutions, the World Bank and the IMF, also need to play their part and to be built up to be able to play their part, to help emerging economies to tide over liquidity problems, to help reform and support the global financial architecture, and to advise countries and encourage countries to make reforms and changes to their economies so that they head off problems and so that they are forewarned and we can avoid, once again, getting into an unsustainable position which will lead to a crash, as happened in the years until 2007. Businesses too play a part. And it's important because while the governments and the World Bank and the IMF, we can set the preconditions and set the stage and create the frameworks, but finally, we can't create the prosperity. The private sector, businesses have to create the prosperity. The mood after the crisis has shifted. Before the crisis, I think there was a certain momentum for laissez-faire, for free markets, to believe that the markets know what they are doing and businesses are able to create wealth. And if it's profitable, that means it's doing something right. After seeing what happened to the financial system, that's no longer a completely convincing argument. So the mood's now that governments should intervene more to moderate the excesses of laissez-faire and to make sure that things always go right. And this is true to some extent. Governments do have a role, because otherwise you would have countries which are prospering without governments. But one must not have the pendulum swing too far in the opposite direction and believe that if only you put civil servants and politicians in charge of everything, all the problems in the world will be solved and we will prosper. Bureaucracy and regulation can at best create the preconditions for wealth creation, and channel the dynamism and the energies of the private sector along the right channels. But we still depend on the private sector to create wealth, to have that entrepreneurial spark, to have those animal spirits, to have faith in their future, and that creative imagination and drive to do well, to do something different, to change the world, and not only make yourself wealthy, but to improve lives for a large part of mankind. And that depends on the business people. You are part of this. APEC economies have to work together to maintain a stable and conducive Asia-Pacific region. But I hope all of you will take full advantage of this and participate in the development and the continuing integration of the region. Thank you very much indeed.